How you do that, Daryl? Ooh, how you do that, Daryl? And I ain't mad about it. I am your man's Nic Rattlehead, and behind this camera, somewhere in California, is my guy, my partner, my buddy, my man's with the master plan, 100 grand, only you, me, and God knows how much I love this guy, man. Ooh, tell him one more time what's your name. Matt the Graff. Matt the Graff. And we would like to collectively welcome you guys to Aftershock Reviews, your place for the best extreme music reviews, man. And today, as our last review of 2020, I submit before you an EP that is just, it's wonderful. You should really, really check this out. The name of this EP is called Katabasis by the UK's Vacuous. I hope I pronounced that right. I think I did too, and I'm actually really proud of myself. Now, before we move forward, vacuous, what does that even mean, right? What is the word vacuous defined as? Well, Webster's has told me that vacuous actually stands for mindless, lack of thought or intelligence. Ooh, that's got death metal stamped all over it. It's great. And I tell you right now, I want to call this death metal and like black metal, but why don't we just call it blackened death, right? Because that's exactly what this is. Because you're going to find a lot of elements of those two genres crammed into this album. Now, like we said before, this album was recorded in London, in the UK, right? And normally when I think of London, I don't really think too much of metal and whatever else like that. I know there's a lot there, but this is also just my ignorance here, right? And I can officially call myself a fan. I can officially call myself a fan. After Katabasis, I can officially call myself a fan. Why? Because yes, while they are saying, hey, we're really thoughtless, lack of intelligence, mindless, right? I think it takes a lot of effort, and I think it takes a lot of intelligence to create something this immersive, something that can literally drag you into the painting, into the world building that is Katabasis. Now, when we're talking about Katabasis, it actually opens with the subtitle, right? And the thing about this is, and I'm actually having to look at notes here, pardon me, bear with me here, because while it does seem very simplistic, right? This album really seems like when you're talking about like black and death, you have your death metal vocal and you have the black metal atmosphere. But how is the black metal atmosphere accomplished? We have our distorted guitars, right? And we have things drenched in reverb, and especially, and this is throughout the album, not just Katabasis, but it's throughout the album, right? And we also have the percussionist, right? Now here, yet again, I think this is going to be a running thing for 2020. The percussionists to me have been the heroes, like great riffing, great vocal delivery, it's what little solos do pop up here, right? And how quick and very terse they are good. But we're talking about the percussionist because he does a good job of just staying in the pocket. That's what he does. There isn't really much in the way of elaborate drum fills, right? There really isn't. Because especially when we're talking about Katabasis, we have like 4 notes that lead us into this track, right? And as that riff, those 4 notes are repeated over and over, the 4th note is the one that kind of it ascends and then it descends, right? And it's like, okay, cool. That's kind of really neat. It's really simple, but yet and still mindless, lack of intelligence, simplicity. I guess you can kind of say the synonyms, whatever, at least a metal they are. And I think it was really cool because yet and still they're distorted, they're laced in reverb, but then as they are repeated, more elements, more sound, more atmosphere is being added to our mix here, right? And it also kind of builds a sense of tension. It builds a sense of dread, and it's absolutely great. And then our percussionist starts to kind of like introduce himself with a very simple 4/4 and even at times a double bass, right? Really cool. And then it just explodes. And then it goes into a D beat and it's absolutely great, right? And the great thing about our vocalist here is he doesn't, like I said before, he doesn't really overdo it as well. He's really great. He delivers his vocals. They are completely indecipherable. I have no earthly idea what he's saying, but that's the thing. His voice is just another instrument that has been packed into the mix of this album. It's great. And his vocals are like laced in reverb, so it kind of makes them feel cavernous, but it also kind of makes them feel like they're kind of like shot in the back of the mix here, because what's ended up happening is is everything, while it is clear, right, which is a feat if you're talking about black metal and you're talking about death metal, right, to have like very clear like layering here, like, okay, cool, here is the percussionist, he's over here, here is the vocalist, he's screaming right dead in my face, and then we have our guitarist over here, right, and we have our bassist somewhere just floating around between, helping out the percussion, right, and adding a sense of depth to our kick drums, to our toms and things of that nature, but also backing up the guitarist. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, right? And the thing about it is, like I said before, even though we are keeping things really simple, the percussionist is keeping time by doing the double bass, by doing the D beats, and then also by doing like a slower version of a blast beat, right? Now, I really do enjoy this because, like I said before, it's adding dread. It's adding like a sense of, okay, while I am enjoying this, might not make it out of this alive. Might not. And I love that. And on top of that, it does a really good job of painting pictures in my head. Now, I love when it comes to metal, the imagery that it introduces to me. And what this reminded me of, especially when we're looking at the cover for Katabasis, is the begotten or begotten. Now, what's begotten, Nick? What is that? Well, Begotten is a experimental film that came out in 1990, right? And it's shot completely in black and white, right? And the great thing about it is there is really no dialogue. There's none, zero, nada. It really does let the sound paint the pictures for you, right? It really does let the sound create a sense of uneasiness, right? So and the reason why I keep saying this is because what's happening here is because of its very atmospheric soundscape and because of that cover, it keeps putting the imagery back in my head of the begotten, especially like at one point there is like, I'm guessing, I don't know if it's God or I don't know what it is, but there is this creature who is hacking himself to death with a straight razor. It's weird, but it's great because it's wonderfully shot, right? It's in this like really grainy type of thing. And you can hear the straight razor as it's going to his stomach and it's making this sound right here, right? It's hard to watch and it's hard to stomach, right? And I think that's what's happening here because yes, we have the beautiful atmosphere, but it's also, especially with this vocal and with how simple things are, it's kind of hard to kind of deal with. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful. And then we have Fermentation, right? Now, Fermentation is one of my favorite songs, if not probably my favorite song off of this EP. Why? Because we have a very, very, very catchy riff. Matter of fact, it might be the most catchy riff off this album. And this, yet again, this is another thing. They know how to write a catchy riff. And another thing about it is as well, they stick with that riff, right? Even if they're not necessarily playing it note for note, it's the rest of the track is kind of in the same key, kind of in the same vein of the original idea that they have put before you at the start of the track. And it's absolutely great because it's not like, here's an idea, here's an idea, here's an idea. Look how intelligent we are that we were able to string these together and create a cohesive track. No, it's not like that. It's saying, here's the riff, and now we're going to expand upon it. Now we're going to build upon it until it explodes and blossoms into something even more gargantuan at the end of the time code. And it's wonderful. And the thing about it is this riff is expounded on throughout Fermentation. And like I said before, our percussionist is just doing a great job of leading us as the track morphs and contorts and shifts into something completely different. It's like watching a Pokemon evolution right in front of your freaking face. It's good. And Blood Eagle is one of the best enders to an EP this year. Why? Because when we thought they couldn't get more brutal, but at the same time, when we thought they couldn't get more atmospheric, Blood Eagle is the thing that says, look, ta-da, right? Ooh, because it's great. It chugs like a son of a gun. Like, ooh, buddy, it's chunky. It's chunky as heck. And it just starts with this very chunky riff and it explodes and it morphs like the rest of the track, which is why it's kind of funny to me where I see the definition for this band as mindless, where I see the definition of this band as something that is lacking intelligence, especially as a designer, because, if we're keeping it a buck with each other, if we're just keeping it real, I'm a designer, right? And one of the things you learn really quickly in design is the easier something is, right? Or the more simple something appears, the more thought it took to get it there, right? Especially when you're talking about something like a Nike logo, right? Ain't no telling how long it took her to create that logo, right? The more simple something appears, or the more simple something is to interact with, the more thought it took to get that idea there. And that's what I think is happening when it comes to Vacuous's album, Katabasis. This is a very good EP. This is something that really wets my whistle, and I'm looking at 2021. Pardon me, can't talk, too excited. You look at 2021 and you're like, so we get an LP now, right? An LP now, right? Because that's where I am. Because this is great. This is a great introduction. It has all of the bells and whistles that I want in an album. It is so death metal, but it is so black metal. At the same time, it has great soundscapes so far as like guitars just scratching at their strings to create an uneasy background to what's going on. The vocalist is just so guttural, but then those guttural vocals don't interfere with the riffage and the great percussion work because it's shot in the background and almost made to have equal importance as the rest of them, so nobody's standing out over the other, and it's just harmonious and wonderful. This is great. Listen to me. The name of this album or EP again is called Katabasis by the UK's Vacuous. You can go to their Bandcamp. We'll leave a link for that in the description below so you can check that out, so you can buy it and you can support this budding band, because this is great stuff. This great stuff. This great stuff. And if you also haven't seen it, I highly suggest that you go and watch Begotten. You can actually kind of find that on YouTube. If I can find the link for that, I'll go ahead and put that in the description below as well. And I actually challenge you, if you want to, put Katabasis on repeat and watch Begotten, and then tell me it doesn't match. Tell me Begotten doesn't need Katabasis as its backing song, because it makes Begotten even more metal. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I'm telling you. I am your man's Nic Rattlehead, and behind this camera is my man's with the master plan, 100 grand. Only you, me, and God knows how much I love this guy, man. Tell him one more time what's your name. Matt the Graff. Love you, buddy. Wash your hands. Support your bands. Peace. Ooh, how you do that, Dale?